Hello friends, welcome again. In this video, I will talk about 10 things that you should not be doing in your interview. Now, I have interviewed a lot of candidates and I've seen some candidates making these mistakes on repeated basis, and this is kind of an end to their interview or end to their hiring process. So make sure you are very vigilant and careful not to make these mistakes. Number one is talking either too much or talking too little. You need to understand where the interviewer is. Especially when interviewer is taking notes, that means you're saying something which is important to them and hence they're writing it down. But if you start to expand too much into a particular example or start to talk too much, so much so that they stop taking notes, that means that they've gotten what they needed from you. And now whatever you're saying is just excess information which is kind of not required by the interviewer. So it is about time for you to skip on to the next relevant point or just close down or close up on the example altogether. Especially when you see them not taking notes anymore, that is your cue to kind of just hold on or close on to the example altogether. The second here piece is that you start talking too less, which is whenever you're asked a question, you just give answer in a 1 or 2 line. No, that is not right, because they are expecting you to talk or share more information so they can deduce from whatever you're sharing that whether you're the right candidate or not. So for instance, if they ask you about a leadership example and you go like, yes, there has been a leadership instance in my previous organization where I led a project and I worked on the project from end to end. I led a team and it was a great project and I ended up succeeding. If you just say this is just too little, because when they are asking you for an example or a leadership example from your past, they just don't want to know whether you've done a leadership example or not, or whether you've experienced a leadership moment or not. They want to know how did you manage that situation? How did you show your leadership? So you have to give details, sharing that how you were exhibiting your leadership qualities and not just saying, yes, I led a project and that's it. Now, one call out before moving forward. In case you find any value from this video, I have to ask for you. 1, smash the like button as this keeps me motivated. 2nd, press the subscribe button along with the bell icon so you get notified as soon as I put a new content on this channel. On this channel, I post content pertaining to financial and career success for early and mid-career professionals. Other than that, if you want me to continue making unbiased content like this, you can also support me on patreon.com. I will leave the link to my Patreon page in the description of this video. Now let's get rolling back into the video. On the same line, second thing that you should not be doing is rambling, which is just being all over the place and not being concise. Every time you're sharing an example, you need to have a thread. So you need to start from the beginning and take the interviewer one by one from one piece to the other piece to the other piece. The interviewer has no knowledge of your past experience. They didn't work in the companies where you worked, and they didn't work on the projects which you worked on and for which you're sharing the example of. So you really need to bring them in your world. And that is only possible if you make it very easy, very simple for them. I call it a grandma rule, which is that you are able to explain it to your grandma. Any difficult situation or difficult experience that you've had or complex experience that you've had, you can explain it to your grandma. It should be that simple. And for simplicity, it is important that you have a thread. So you start from the beginning and then take them through the chain of events. But if you're just rambling here and there, either you're jumping between the example or you're talking about stuff which is not very much relevant to the example, then it is a disaster case. This usually happens. The rambling usually happens if you've not thought through that particular example before you come and present that example or before you come in the interview. So it is very important that you prepare in advance. What is required is that you list down all the key examples that you think that you might be asked of or that you should be sharing in the interview. So key highlights, key achievements from your past experience. By the way, I've made a separate video on how you should go about preparing for an interview. You can check it out here. I will leave the link here and also in the description of this video. But here the idea is that you prepare in advance that yes, you might be asked this particular experience from your past. And if you are asked this particular experience, how will you talk about it? And the best way to prepare for it is to write it down. Write it down in that particular flow. That first I will talk about the context. This is what the project was. This is what happened. These were the people working on, and this was the issue. What did I do? I first identified the issue. This is what I did to identify the issue. Second, I analyzed the information. Third, I got the expert opinion. Fourth, fifth, sixth. So it should be in a flow of events. So the interviewer can kind of follow and track from the context itself to the end result. And this is only possible if you've written that experience or listed it down, all the details prior, because once you write it down, once you list it down, one, you concise it, you make it more articulate, and second, you kind of put it in your long-term memory as well. So when you're speaking in the interview, you're not just rambling because you've written it down once, you've practiced it once. Hence, it is very easy for you to kind of recall what you wrote and just share in that particular articulate and concise manner. Next is on the same lines, reading word by word. So the other extreme is that there is an individual who has written down all the notes. So the rambling individual is one who's never written down, have never practiced, and is just coming to the interview and just rambling with regards to the experience that they're sharing. The other extreme is that there is some individual who's written down every word that they want to say for that particular experience or that particular example. And now they have that listed in front of them on the laptop, let's say, because it's a virtual interview. So it is very hard, or it is almost impossible for the interviewer to know whether you have a screen in front of you or not, but you have a screen in front of you. And now what you do is you start reading word by word. So when there are no emotions and when there are no the pauses, that is clearly an indication that you're reading. And if you start doing that, then you kind of become non-mechanical. Rather, it is not a good sign, because then the interviewer thinks that maybe you're not a great communicator, and that's why you're relying on reading the material line by line. Now, it is okay to have some bullets written down for you to refer to the bullets, but in that case, it will not be noticeable. It's just that you talk about a bullet, you read out the bullet, you expand on it yourself because the expansion of the bullet is not written there. And then once you've expanded on that particular bullet, you move to the next point. The next point is written there, you look at your notes, you look at the next point, and then you expand on it again. So here, the best way to do it is when you prepare a sheet which you can keep in front of you, where you have all the examples listed down and key points or key bullets that you want to call out in each of the examples. So when the interviewer asks you a question, either you can just pretend that you're writing something, and this is kind of a trick that I usually propose to the candidates I coach, which is when you are being asked a question, pretend as if you're taking notes or writing something down. So just as me looking down and scribbling, this allows you, or this gives you permission to look down, because now you've told the interviewer just by your action that you've written down something on a piece of paper and that you can refer to it. And hence this kind of gives you permission to every time look down and use your notes to answer the question, because once you've written down, you've taken the permission from the interviewer that there is something that you've written down which you want to look and refer to. So every time they ask you a question and you start giving an answer, and then you want to look at your notes just to make sure you didn't forget anything. Given you took notes previously, you can look down, check your old notes that you took, and basis that, decide whether you want to add more perspective to whatever example you're sharing or not. So again, here the idea is that your notes should not be word by word. They should be just written as key highlights. So you can read that key highlight just for you to remember what you have to say. That is it. Rest should come from your heart, as if you're presenting on the spot from your heart, from your mind. Next not to do is rushing to answer, which is trying to be speedy. So every time you are asked a question, you are forced or pressured to answer ASAP. You're not comfortable with that pause. Start being comfortable with the pause. So when you're asked a question, just pause, think about it. And best is to write what you have to say. So let's imagine they've asked you a question which was not there in your notes. It could be a situational question where they go like, tell me if you face this situation, or you face a situation where there's a conflict with an individual, how would you go about managing it? So they're not asking you a question from your past experience, rather forward looking. And this is something that you've not captured in your notes. Let's assume that is the case. So what you can do is you can always pause, look down, take notes, what you have to say, what you have to call out, and then share. No need to rush into answering the question. Take good 30 seconds to 60 seconds. It is okay to take 30 to 60 seconds in thinking about it. So much so that you can even ask a permission. Like you can go about saying, can you give me some time for me to clear my thoughts or structure my thoughts? Take that time, put down the bullets that you have to call out, then number them how you want to talk them out. Like for instance, if they've asked you a question around conflict management is listen to understand, talk to the individual, share with them the objective of the company, share where you are coming from, and try to help them. Now, these are the points that you've written down. then number them in terms of which point do you want to say first. Because again, as I said, you need to have a thread, you need to have a flow. So first, I connected with an individual to understand or listen to understand. Second, I shared with them where was I coming from. Third, I took them back to the company strategy or objective, and so on and so forth. So number it in a way that you want to speak. Then every time you have to say, just look down, say number 1, expand on the point, then look down, pick number 2, expand on the point, and so on and so forth. Again, there are no points in answering the question fast. All the points that you get is answering the question right. Now, next one is being negative and complaining. And this usually happens when you're complaining or being negative about your current employer or your current manager. Just don't do that, because whatever you're saying is just one side of the story. And the interviewer might feel that maybe you're just a disgruntled employee and you're just sharing your side of the story, and maybe there's another side of the story that the manager has. Even if you are on the right path or you are the person who is right and whatever you're saying is true, just don't be negative. Just don't complain about your employer or your manager, because the interviewer might think that you could bring in the same attitude or same way of thinking or negativity in their organization as well, and nobody wants that. Because I always say this, they are not trying to hire the guy with the perfect skill. They are trying to hire a guy or girl who can fit into the wall. So a brick which can fit into the wall of other bricks and make the wall stronger. Unlike a brick that just works in standalone basis. So if you're someone who has a negative attitude, who's complaining, who has negativity, when you get fit into the wall, you won't make the wall stronger. You'll make the wall weaker. Even if you are the one who has all the right skills, has all the right qualifications, but if you don't have the right attitude, you're not the right person to be hired for that job. Because every job in this world requires interdependence. You have to work with other people. And if you give a hint that you are not a person who's capable or has the ability to work with other people properly or in collaboration, then you don't stand a chance. So don't bring any negativity or any complaining attitude in the interview. Next is talking about salary or negotiating. Now, till the time you've not been given an offer, don't talk about salary. Usually the salary discussion happens earlier when the recruiter contacts you and talks to you about the role. That is where they give you a range. Just talk about the range and that's it. Leave it to the range. But after that, during the process, don't talk about it. With any of the interviewers, just don't talk about it. Even if it's a hiring manager, just don't talk about the salary or negotiate at all. Let the entire process pass. If you were okay with the range that was shared with you earlier when the recruiter contacted you, that is it. Now let the process flow. Let you go through all the interviews. Don't talk about your salary or negotiation of the salary at all. And once you've cleared everything and you are the right candidate, the candidate who they want, then you go about talking the salary and negotiating the salary. Now I've made a separate video on how you should go about negotiating the salary. You can check it out here. I won't share the details in this video. Rather, I will move to the next point that you need to avoid in your interview, which is not asking thought-provoking questions. Now, this usually happens towards the end of the interview, where the interviewer asks you saying that I have asked all that I wanted to know. Now I want to know if you have any questions for me. One, don't say I don't have any questions. Even if you don't have any questions, make up some smart, intelligent questions just to come across as someone who has given thought to the interview, thought to the role, thought to the company, and thought to the task itself, as again just saying, no, I know everything and I don't want to ask any questions. Don't say that. You need to have some questions. And those questions should not be about the business. Rather, they should be about the organization, the culture. Now, also one advice that I give here is keep those questions related to organization, your task, your assignment, or the people that you would be joining. Now, I've made a separate video on reverse interview questions. Rather, I've made 2 videos. I will leave the link of both those videos in the description of this video. And for one of those videos, I will leave the link here. You can check it out here in detail. But make sure you have smart, intelligent questions that you can ask in order for you to give them an impression that you are the right candidate, because you are thinking in those lines and hence you are the right candidate. You have to give that impression even with the questions that you are asking. Next one is turning up late. Never do that. Rather, you should be turning up for an interview 5 to 10 minutes early. It is okay. Even if you think that it may sound or it may make you look desperate. Yes, it's nice. It's nice to look desperate to join a particular company. If I'm the hiring manager, I would love to hire someone who is really passionate and desperate about joining my company versus someone who has an attitude. So try to keep that buffer, try to join early. especially if it's a physical interview. Better to be early because there might be traffic, there might be other things that may just delay you, so you rather have that buffer. And if it's online, again, it's better to join early. I remember joining one of the calls which I joined like 10 minutes earlier. I'm glad I did, because they just took me in a different setup or a different web where I had to log in, put in some details and all, and I didn't realize that already took me like 8 minutes. So I was just 2 minutes before the interview started, I was there. And I was glad that I started 10 minutes early because I used up all my buffer, and hence I was able to catch the interview. Imagine if I had only joined a minute before, taking another 8 minutes would have meant that I lose a lot of interview time, which I didn't want to lose, and would have left a bad impression with the interviewer. So try to keep a buffer before you join the interview. Next one is underdressing. This is a question I get a lot, which is, should I wear a suit? Should I wear a tie? Whatever you're thinking, try to overdress versus underdress. It is okay to overdress. No one will penalize you. Even if it's a startup and you dress up with a jacket, let's say it's a startup culture, it's a very casual culture, you know the company, they just wear t-shirts and all, and you wear a jacket, it is fine. You overdress, no one will give you negative marks for overdressing. But imagine if it's a company where everyone wears a jacket or wears a collared shirt with buttons, and then you come in a t-shirt, now you're underdressed. Now you get negative marks. So if you don't know, if you know, it's good. Just dress as you know how the hiring manager would be. But if you don't know, or you're guessing and you're not sure, just overdress a bit versus underdressing. Last but not the least is looking distracted, which is either you have your phone in front of you and a notification comes on your phone and you look down on your phone on the side. Just keep your phone away. Just turn it off, turn it on silent mode, turn it upside down so there is no notification coming there. Other than that, if you are joining online, there might be notification coming in from your current workplace or from your laptop that you're using. Maybe even if it's a personal laptop, there might be notifications that may pop up and distract you. It happens to me. If a notification pops up, I have to read it. There is no other option, because it pops up, it just distracted me. Similarly, another distraction that I find is if you have yourself in the camera as well. Like this, the screen is kind of split between the interviewer and yourself. So you can also see yourself. Now what you're doing is, instead of looking at the interviewer and seeing how they are reacting, or what is their, whether they're making the eye contact or not, or what is their expression, what are they thinking, or whether they're nodding or not, or all the body language that the interviewer might have. Now what you're doing is you're looking at yourself, whether you're presenting well, whether you're saying right, or whether, so you are all distracted because you're looking at yourself. Just take it as if it was a conversation that you were having with an interviewer face to face. What would you do? You won't have yourself or a mirror image in front of you. Rather, you would just be looking at the interviewer. So get rid of that mirror image. Don't look at yourself when you're online. Again, the idea is remove all distractions that can come. There could also be distractions in and around your area. So not just in front of you, but maybe kids at home, or some other family members at home, or some other noise at home. So just change your place, be in a spot where there is no distraction. Anyways, guys, hopefully this video was helpful for you to now have an idea of what kind of common mistakes people make, because I've seen people make these mistakes and just turns off the interviewer. So don't make these mistakes. In case you found value from this video, I'm sure you'll find value from another video that I have where I talk about how you should go about introducing yourself in an interview. You can check out that video here. Other than that, I have another video where I talk about how to go and answer, or how you should go about answering a question related to conflict. You can check out that video here. Thank you.